Hello, hey, hi, social media family. Being what sort of racist, but then not necessarily being of whatever walks of life, factions of society, and our lifestyle preferences. Being that because there is a reason and a purpose for that my person having said so and mentioning that for the last as I had done or did, or so I say, regardless of whether or not that my person is speaking correct, proper, standard English grammar of American dialect, being of some of such qualities and quantities or not. Being that because people's places and things, don't you know, being at the wrong place at the wrong time in the wrong crowd can have some or such rather severe or serious consequences. Been there, done that, don't want to do it again, anytime too soon again. God forbid. And the life you save may be your own. So I say to you all, or to the persons among yourselves, being my social media family, and even so to any or equal as well, not especially to any visitors to my own personal chat room, as we have it here, as I am an account holder of this particular social media website address app. Then I am an account holder of other ones, of the competition, etc. Not all, but quite a few. Even whereas I am supposed to be an account holder of quite a few porn websites of social media. Otherwise, being of which I am in the process of deleting more than quite a few of my much more graphic saved video collection. But anyway, getting back to some such other. Yes, so I say to you all, my social media family. And if any of you who could pay a visit to my personal chat room for this social media website that I'm an account holder of as of the present given time, hopefully you would be more than likely, more often than not, of my social media family or of any others, being of whom have yet to become members of my social media family, than to come in here as internet trolls attempting to sabotage any of my broadcasts or composed and then posted videos, or any videos being of which are being composed and then have yet to be posted, or whatever I've said. Being because I don't take kindly to internet trolls attempting to go about with the monkey business or devilment or demonic activity at hand, being of which is to attempt to discourage and depress or spread gloom and doom for whatever negative reasons and or purposes, being of which you could have contemplated doing so as a hater. I mean, unless you have a legit, warranted, justified beef or disagreement with me, then please express yourself in a discreet and normal, mature kind of way so that I can get some kind of a general idea as to why you think the way you do, and then from there try to settle our disagreement in a civilized kind of way. Not that of my person am going to interact with anybody in a physical kind of way if your words being of a verbal and or mental nature contradicts that being of which would be much more pleasing to my eardrums upon a positive note of interest. Being that because unless we both can or could possibly learn how to disagree like mature, civilized adults, if not agree likewise in the same line of thought in our sense of the word, then that my person am not going to entertain the thought of stooping to your level of ignorance, insanity, and or impoliteness. Or in other words, stupidity, sickness, sadisticness, and or rudeness. Being that because cowardly bullies, they need an audience in order for reasons or purposes to validate their nonsense. And we're not going to go there, you know. And because if internet trolls come into my personal chat room or this social media website address and get to reminding me of a proverbial neighbor from hell, of a public nuisance, of a problem neighbor, of a public nuisance of a problem neighbor, or a public nuisance of problem neighbors, they get to remind me of proverbial neighbors from hell of that nature, being a public nuisance is problem neighbors, or be I speaking the singular or plural sense of the word. Then 9 times out of 10, more likely, more often than not, I'm not going to entertain your crap or your garbage or whatever it's to be called, you know. Because 9 times out of 10, I'm just going to silence your chat, you know. And then if you want to continue to somehow manage to lurk around, attempting to discourage or depress me, myself, that of my person as well as anybody else, then of whom could possibly become or be a participant of my personal chat room, and as you could go about attempting to do so to spread gloom and doom through some or such of another or some or such other person, being of whom could possibly come off as one of your accomplices in crime, then likewise I can or could possibly silence their chat as well, or all the same. And then last but not least, I will consider that of a second alternative option, being of which is to just block you altogether. And the majority of most people or persons being of whom I block from any social media website address, personal chat room of mine that I could possibly be an account holder thereof, I do not permit to regain entry or to gain access once again. Because most who I block, they stay blocked permanently. Only the few who I do block and I permit to gain access or entry back into my personal chat room for whatever social media website address, it's just that they are the few. But the majority, most, they can't get back into my personal chat room for whatever social media website address, being of which I myself can or could possibly become or be an account holder of, for nothing in the world. No can do. Can't let you back in. Because life is too short to become a hostage or a POW, prisoner of war, or prisoner of an even greater war than that, which is physical, as in spiritual. I mean, that may sound rather undemocratic, but it's really not. I mean, I'm going to give you more than enough time to voice your views and or opinions, and during the course of maybe a broadcast or a few broadcasts of mine, if I see that you are a frequent flyer of my airways and you're not on the same page that I am on, then you're going to take a nosedive, possibly permanently, into my block list of persons or characters. Like I said, very few do I permit to get back in to my personal chat room for any social media website address once I block them. Because life is too short to be playing all these immature, ignorant, insane, or stupid, sick, sadistic, immature, ignorant, insane, and impolite, or stupid, sick, sadistic, and or rude, senseless games with somebody who is just bent upon venting. I don't know what the problem may have been for you to come off with that kind of attitude in a negative way with somebody that I look at it that you're not even so much as trying to think of it with a mind's intentions to give the benefit of the doubt or to understand where another person is coming from. I mean, if you're just flat out obvious attempting to start something with somebody that you don't know, that you just get to assuming with that rather twisted, warped, wicked mindset of yours, then I must equal as well let you know, but at the same time not stoop to your level or whatever that garbage of whatever's going on in your life that influenced you to mouth off like a toilet bowl mouth, or city sewage dumpster. I mean, I must equal as well. I mean, it would be diplomatic or democratic of me, if you look at it from that point of view, to inform that of your person that I'm not having it in here. I'm just going to give you so few warnings to chill, to amend your ways before you could possibly become one of those persons being of whom I would block by putting on my permanent block list. Like I said, most who I block, I don't let back into my chat room or any social media website address. That's just me. I don't know about anybody else, because life is too short for believers in God and unbelievers and non-believers alike. I mean, don't get me wrong. I mean, I'm going to give you at least a few times, or for the few times that you could possibly enter into my personal chat room for any social media website address, being in which I myself can or could possibly come and be an account holder of, to make amends. And if you're not trying to think of it with nice intentions to grow up, then act like an overgrown baby of an adult person that should know better, then I'm going to say, time out, take a hike now, take a chill pill, go in the corner, it's time out time for you. Better hope that I let you back into my particular circuit, because I'm not having it. I have a zero tolerance level for that kind of nonsense. You know. So I say to one and all, even if a member of my social media family were to all of a sudden prove oneself to have become or be a closet internet troll in the negative after having attempted to disguise oneself as some or such other or another sort of type of person, you know. So I say to one and all, my social media family, as well as any visitors to my own personal chat room for this website address of social media. Otherwise, so that being some and such to be possibly considered, or for any social media website address I myself can or could possibly have become or be an account holder of, regardless, be it some such of a socially acceptable social media website address or one of those of a pornographic nature. Then I'm still working on deleting any porn video collections of mine for any social media website address platforms or podiums of apps being of which I am an account holder of. The much more graphic porn collections, whereas the less graphic ones I could possibly continue to have in my save collection, being of which could possibly be the ones that could, likewise as well all the same be aired upon any television network, being of which would be considered as R-rated than X-rated, or especially if it's like PG, parental guidance. So I say to you all, my social media family, and then some, the old, young alike, of both of the two sexual genders, of males and females, representing not only that being of the human species, but then no less the global community for this post 911 era of a new millennium of this apocalyptic day and age. And whereas the doomsday clock is now at, the doomsday clock, the remaining superpowers with their military arsenals is at a few minutes to midnight, compared on to how formerly previous or prior to them was at a quarter midnight for these rather biblically prophetic times. For this even greater warfare being of a spiritual one. For the devil and his demons are attempting to take as many as they could as possible, with that their potential being because they know that their time is short before the final battle or war, however said, of Armageddon. But anyway, though, how are you all doing? Well, hopefully everyone is doing at least okay. If not better yet to be said, to be feeling all right. Or if not, best of all to be said, to be feeling blessed and stressed, more blessed and stressed, or too blessed to possibly be calm or be stressed. You and yours, your family, friends, and hopefully me and mine likewise as well are all the same. Yes. But then whatsoever I could speak upon, be it a one subject matter of the issue at hand, be it a controversy or not, be it of a plague upon any given society for a country or nation, wherever in the world, or not, be it of some or such that has issue that has yet to be resolved, if it has not been already, to make its citizens and or foreign visitors' lives of some or such not only of safety so that they would feel, or we would feel, I would say, security in our persons, and for that growth on a positive note of interest in any regard, be it for, economics, education, enlightenment, and etc., or even so just for entertainment or not, you know, yes, whatever given argument, being in which I could speak my own personal views and opinions upon, for that thereof, with the many different views and opinions affiliate, associated with, and representing that being in which is to be possibly considered, or be I were to speak upon a couple, few, or four more for that matter. Topics of discussions to be debated, of conversations, of dialogue, of communication, but then don't kill the messenger. I'm just here to deliver, and hopefully with that much less usages of expletive of profanity, much rather than instead with that much more cuss words to simply say. And therefore, then let it be said and stated for the record. Then hopefully, you know, likewise, as well, all the same, I was not sound off so much and seem to be that much more like a believer in God, as in Christian, aka Protestant. No, don't even go there, don't even try it. Not that I had meant to sound, and I seem like I'm contradicting myself. But then hopefully I would sound more like a believer in God as I am as a Christian, aka Protestant. But what I had meant to say, or as I say so now, but hopefully not like some are such a believer in God as in Christian, aka Protestant, being of whom has gone astray from the will of God, to have become or be that one sheep that has strayed away from the 99 flock or flocks of sheep, being of whom shepherd is our Lord and Savior, the Christ, the Messiah deliverer, the great shepherd, and then has to try to make amends, hopefully soon enough, to come back home as a prodigal son or prodigal daughter, depending on what a believer, which is a believer's sexual gender. I meant to say, well, regardless whether I'm speaking of King James or Free Snipe for that matter, and that because it would be bad enough to become subjected to experiencing that of a living damn hell of curses as a believer in God, that's coming off like quite a sheep that has gone astray from the 99 sheep otherwise of fellow believers as in Christians, aka Protestants, than to be worse yet of a status of an unsaved unbeliever, an unbeliever otherwise, God forbid. For people in damn hell want ice water, Yes. So I say. And whereas it would be bad enough to be coming off like the lesser tweed being a prodigal son, then to possibly come off as the worst tweed was being any one of those false brethren, the worst or the worstest of unbelievers and non-believers, being deceivers who pretend to have become, pretend to be believers in God, as in Christians, aka Protestants. Those supposed so-called holier than thous of modern day religious Pharisees and or Sadducees, being of the likes of religious con artists, religious charlatans, religious chameleons, religious wolves and sheep's clothing, snakes in the grass, religious phonies, religious fakes, being of whom are among themselves are the likes of the worser or the worstest of closet devil worshippers, being of whom make up the majority or most churchgoers of whatsoever religious denominations, from the pools to the pulpits, members and visitors alike. I mean, after all, everybody talking about heaven ain't going. Everybody that claims to be a believing God or Christian is not, you know. And I'm one of those persons, being of whom believe that the majority or most churchgoers are nothing but the worst or the worstest of closet devil worshippers, compared to how others may tend to agree. I mean, compared to how others may tend to disagree, is what I meant to say. Sorry about that. Prince P, continue to regulate my mind compared to how the Prince of Darkness took to complete my speech. Yes. I'm one of those persons that believe that to be the case, you know, compared to how some of such others may disagree, is what I meant to say. And I'm sure that others agree with me on that. And now that I have gotten the basic intro and introduction out the way, from preliminaries at hand, let me get to speaking upon something to begin with. Before I were to close out, as I would usually give the basic intro, I would speak upon a subject matter, at least one, if not a couple, a few or four more for that matter, depending on how that my person could possibly feel at some or such a given moment in time, or in this case, at the present. And then, last but not least, I will give the closing of the matter, that is, conclude a social media broadcast. Well, kind of woke up late today, but it's all good. You know, I've been feeling a little bit up under the weather, but I felt worse. So hopefully this is one of my better than one of my worse days. I mean, after all, as anybody knows, wherever in the world, we, being of the global community, have become subjected to experiencing that of a pandemic. Pandemic. Still say pandemic. Pandemic. Internationally or worldwide. And this is supposed to be a repeat of one, being of which had happened something like a century ago, give or take. Whereas some are saying, compared to how others would tend to differ, that, this here global pandemic has been around for 100 years, give or take, And whereas they're saying that it's just an exacerbated case of it. I'm like, what? Are you kidding me? But that's what they say. And at some time or another, I had explained to you all how that is during a previous video or previous videos or whatever I've said, that I have had to pay a visit to a local vicinity area neighborhood community medical facility of a hospital, and then do follow-up at a clinic. And then not only that, but I myself personally had done or did a 10-day self-quarantine, compared to the title for this social media broadcast, as you see, being of which is nothing more than a 30-day challenge, not a quarantine, compared to that 10-day self-quarantine that I was encouraged, or to use a better word, inspired to do for myself. because, you know, this stuff is out here killing people or person, regardless of whether it's natural or partially man-made or man-made, partly man-made or man-made altogether, or whatever the case is situation. But then, nevertheless, it's still a global pandemic that has some merit in having more than quite a few, if not the entire human species, drop off like flies, you know. And I was saying, I'm not having this here. I'm going to use precaution. I'm going to do all within my power, and hopefully not that man is greater than God, but hopefully that much more with God's power to try to either make sure that I don't catch this shit. Oh, excuse my pardon my French. Let me rephrase it. To make sure I don't catch this stuff, and if I were to contract it, then to make sure that I get better. You know, at one time another I called it the corona faggot virus or the COVID-19 homo global pandemic. You know, being of which was much more of a logical statement than what our president defeated calls it. That well, at one time or another he was calling it the corona Chinese virus before he had re-nicknamed it the corona China virus, though the second nickname he give it was not as offensive, but it was offensive enough to be compared onto the original nickname that he had given it. So we must give him kudos on that. You know, still though, he's not getting the presidency. That's a done deal. And because he didn't have a man's intentions in speaking upon those matters, now they come to mind to denounce any, every, and all racist redneck cliques or organizations when he had the chance to. He had the opportunity to denounce any of the likes upon not only national television, but upon the international or global televised networks. And for that, a radio for that matter, and whatever other electronic medium of communication. But then, nevertheless, he refused to do so. And that was partly the reason why he had lost the presidency. And not that I'm wagging a dog. That's a term meaning that, to be translated, to be defined as, like, say, when a politician does something wrong, and from there, you know, destroys the public's confidence in him, or her, depending on whichever one's sexual agenda is, and then try to get the general public or people at large to focus their attentions upon something else other than the scandal that he or she is involved in, being of which could possibly spell jail time, etcetera. So they, being this politician, that politician, they try to get you to refocus your attentions upon something else that could be a controversy, to take away your attention from the controversy of their own personal scandal. But getting back to some of such other, kind of has made that perfectly clear before I lose my train of thought. Not that I'm trying to confuse anybody or trying to be of a clandestine like character, regardless of how that my person, I'm prior military. As a matter of fact, my what would they call that? AIT was supposed to have been military intelligence. Before I got booted out the military, whereas I only had about a about at least a week to finish basic training before I were to go into my AIT. Then I could have possibly become military military, police for that matter, MP. Anyway, getting back to some of such other, you know, so that I won't let the what should I call it, the thought get away from me what I was speaking upon much earlier in the same sense of the word, or the last mention, you know, so that I could you know, restrain it in that of the proper cubicle before it become like full flight, like some kind of fugitive. I don't know. Full flight from reality. But then I'm in recovery from any, consumption of intoxicating alcoholic beverages or that of the usages of my drug of choice being of the wacko weed, marijuana, reefer, peyote, whereas before then I have had at least a few years of sobriety up under my belt for this recovery from addictions as that being, you know, from that is for that of abstaining from drinking intoxicating alcoholic beverages and smoke my drug of choice being of the wacko weed, reefer, marijuana for some time before I had relapse, and now I'm back on the bandwagon recovery. And now, from having had a few years of sobriety for this recovery, now I only have a few months. Then it's all good. At least I'm back on the bandwagon recovery. But then getting back to some of such other, not that I am a promoter of foolishness or nonsense. I mean, if anything, the devil and his demons and any demon possessed persons are other likes to compliment how the devil is the author of confusion. You know, I'm a believing God, you know, Christian, aka Protestant. Not that I'm buying for time to try to remember something that being which I may have said earlier or last mentioned, but I know what I was speaking on, how the president of the United States of America, not that I'm wagging a dog, I'm gonna get back to myself shortly, was he was calling the coronavirus or COVID-19 that of the corona China virus at one time or another. I mean, the corona China virus at one time or another, whereas he originally called it the corona Chinese virus. And though he had re-nicknamed it the corona China virus, though it is still offensive in its own right, but it's not as offensive as what he himself had originally called it, the corona Chinese virus, being that because to write off a whole race of people or nationality is wrong, you know. And whereas for that of my person to have called it, getting back to me and all now, and speaking upon these matters, this subject, and for that of my person to have called it in times past the corona faggot virus or the COVID-19 homo global pandemic. And though it's much more logical to call it that, being because card-carrying members to the LGBT community are more likely, more often than not, are some such as the more or most vulnerable to contract it and then to possibly become or be that much more super spreaders of it, but still, though logical for me to call it that, is inappropriate in its own right or offensive. So I no longer call the coronavirus the corona faggot virus or COVID-19 global pandemic, the COVID-19 homo global pandemic. Then because regardless of how it would be much more logical to call it that than to call it the corona Chinese virus or the Corona China virus, like some or such other or another. No, I'm not anyway to be I'm not anywhere near to be put into the same category or be classified as a president dotard of the u.s.a, a president defeated. But I think you get the general idea what I had meant to say. I don't want to be confused with any of the likes of, an ignoramus, imbecile, or idiot who acts more and more as the time winds down for him to be kicked out of the White House, to be more than seeming like he is like in full flight from reality, whereas he lost the general political election by a landslide, and he acts like he's like really that much more coming off like one who flew over the cuckoo's nest and having reflect upon a proverbial neighbor from hell, cuckoo, crackpot, or crank, attempted to make my life a living damn hell for the longest, daily and nightly, with all the ridiculous 2-cent power plays of his, like the last neighbor from hell at a different building where I was at living as a resident or tenant paying annual monthly rent, utilities, and home phone service fee bills only to come here when I'm president and have to put up with the same thing for the likes of his kind. Because stupid does as stupid feels, and you have a lot more stupid and sick people or persons in the world than ever before. And to complement what I was saying earlier about how the devil and his demons know that their time is short and they're trying, to use a much more appropriate word, because trying is a word to be used for law-abiding American citizens or foreigners, but rather attempting, that's a word to be used for criminals going about illegal activities to attempt to violate somebody else's civil and or human rights, especially when you have certain neighbors bothering with other neighbors' apartment doors, even in the daytime, not to mention, at night. And I do believe in hitting a home run as a matter of self-defense, making like Babe Ruth or Hank Aaron. If I was a catch, a home invader, or an intruder, venturing upon premises properties where one knows one ought not to be, unless you are or you yourself were to become an invited guest, then the uninvited character of the likes, a complete unwelcome stranger, uninvited guest, or a much more appropriate personnel otherwise, if not a family member or friend coming to pay me a visit, then, a landlord or maintenance personnel trying to do repairs within my unit's atmosphere, place of residence apartment, or, police, meaning to go about investigating a complaint of mine of a state of grievance against a proverbial neighbor from hell, or a public nuisance, a problem neighbor, or a a a doctor making home visits, or a social worker, or a lawyer, attorney, etc. Yes. And so this is where I'm at the moment, you all. I'm trying to get better, as I'm feeling slightly up under the weather. Well, hopefully this is one of my better days, though. I'm not feeling like I did before. Be it were to be the results of developments of taking home remedies, over-the-counter drugs, and last but not least, medical prescriptions, And one time or another, I had done a 10-day quarantine, a 10-day self-quarantine, you know. So I'm not trying to catch that crap, that stuff, that coronavirus or COVID-19, to become subject to experiencing symptoms is really not a walk in the park or a picnic, As far as I care, the coronavirus or COVID-19 is like having contracted a form of VD or STD. Whenever I was like more or less indulging in foreplay and sexual intercourse, but with a person representing the opposite sex, no, not a girl, but of a grown adult woman, of a born and raised female person. Don't go there. Don't you try it. Don't you think it. And I think that male sexual predator animal monsters or rapists, or worse yet, pedophile characters representing the masculine gender are a bunch of wusses or wimps, to be compared on to those males otherwise, but then more than quite a few faggots or homos are the likes themselves, representing less manhood, more than quite a few. Well, you know what I mean to say. Any, ever, and all, that was meant as more of the figure of speech. If anything, you know, all of them represent less manhood. What I'm saying is, and Prince of Peace continue rather than man compared to the Prince of Darkness, to confuse my speech. But more than quite a few of them are also the likes of the male rapists, or worse yet, male pedophile characters. Gay pedophile Catholic priests and gay pedophile Catholic priest wannabes. You know, sexually abusing, sexually assaulting, raping, molesting many in different races of underage male minors, of adolescent or teenage, worse yet, preteen boys, of whom are among their boy child sexual assault victims, boy child rape victims, underage male minor molestation building, underage male minor molestation victims. Let's say something about building. I don't know. Sorry about that. Prince Peace continue reading my man compared to Prince about to confuse my speech. Boy molestation victims, for wherever and or whenever they could possibly scope, stalk, or vamp or prey upon them, much rather than instead of prey with them, or whatever edifices or buildings, structures, public or private, whatever sort of type, especially religious, A lot of Catholic priests be taking boys into basements or attics or local vicinity area, neighborhood, community parishes, and be abusing them in an intimate, sensual, or sexual way. www.godhatesfags.com, and then destroy boys' bodies and their minds, souls, and spirits. And they need to be given the option to be castrated to reduce their jail sentences if any of them are pulled over by the police and then taken to the can. But then they are the very ones that hold a monopoly, a corner of the market when it comes to getting those get out of jail free cards. Anyway, though, I'm gonna wrap this up, you all, by saying, if you haven't gotten Christ as your personal Lord and Savior, I will hope that you would think to do so now while the blood is still running warm in your veins, by recognizing or realizing what he himself had done or did upon the cross, Calvary, and Hilligold, suffering at the hands of some such Roman soldiers upon the orders of their religious superiors and whatever other superiors. Whereas he went to that cross of Calvary so that you could possibly acquire that salvation, to become a citizen of the kingdom of heaven, any of us, so that you won't wind up in the lake of fire, damn hell, where the rest of the unsaved unbelievers and unbelievers go to be tortured and terrorized by the devil and its demons for all eternity, compared to how we as believers will be across that great divide that separates heaven from hell and be among other like-minded believers in the presence of God and his angels as citizens of the kingdom of heaven. You all take care and be safe, be blessed, not stressed. Peace and love, joy, and happiness. Get back with you all sometime later. Peace.